This time on War Junk, we investigate the battlefields of northern Holland. We take to the streets of the city of Groningen, where an urban fight raged in April 1945.
They're taking fire as they come up this way.
What evidence still exists from this battle?
So where are we meeting him? Oh, it's amazing to see the pockmarks.
What will we find when we get a chance to dig on the site of a former POW camp? And we search for incredible artifacts that depict the final weeks of the war. This is War Junk Holland, the road to liberation.
I'm Professor David O'Keefe.
And I'm history buff and filmmaker Wayne Abbott.
With our team, we travel the globe searching for war junk.
Remnants, artifacts, anything left over on the battlefield.
Some big, some small.
All with a story to tell.
And a mystery or two to solve along the way.
This is one of the most serene battlefields we've ever explored.
Yeah, the looks can be deceiving. This was the site of some of the bitterest fighting in the end of the Second World War.
And we're following the same route that the Canadian Army took on their way to liberate Holland.
Yeah, you're right. But the road didn't start in these fields. The road to liberation started further up ahead in a place called Groningen.
It's special for the team to come to Holland, to investigate and explore the battlefields where such a monumental moment took place, the liberation of Europe.
So they fought through these streets?
Yeah, imagine being a Canadian soldier having to fight in this environment.
Well, it's basically urban warfare.
Yeah, you had no clue what you were going to find at the end of each street.
Mid-April 1945, Canadian and Allied forces moved through northern Holland. They faced desperate German opposition. 2nd Canadian Division's main objective is the city of Groningen. These were the final weeks of the war before liberation, and this area is the focal point of our investigation.
So where are we meeting him?
Up there.
Our first stop was Groningen Tower, the highest point in the city.
We are meeting local historian Joel Stopels. He has studied the Battle of Groningen in great detail.
How are you? Good. You must be Joel.
Yes,
Now this is the ultimate view of the Groningen battlefield.
and the Allies come from this side on Friday the 13th, 1945, and from the southwest to liberate Groningen. Very difficult for the Canadians and the Allies to fight over here.
Joel is a very passionate young man who really understands history, and in particular the Battle of Groningen.
Problem was you have all the bridges, so they must cross each bridge to come on in the city. But the problem was in the southwest, the Germans blow up the bridges. So that was difficult for Canadian troops to liberate Groningen.
But the challenge I felt was, what are we going to find within the city of Groningen that actually tells the story of the battle?
But what about battle damage? I mean, are there still scars of that battle here in the buildings below?
Yes, a lot of scars left here in Groningen because there's a lot of old buildings.
Joel didn't have to take us far to see evidence of battle damage. It was right at the base of the tower.
Turn here.
Oh yeah, you can see it already here.
Yeah, here. Also bullet holes.
Look at that. Oh, it's amazing to see the pockmarks. So you're saying that these came from Canadian gunfire then?
Yeah, and the Canadian gunfire comes from the buildings behind the tree. And the Canadians had anti-tank weapons and machine guns and fired over the German positions around the tower.
I mean, what an incredible reminder this is of what happened here in 1945. 70 years later, you still see the signs of war here in Groningen.
We move from what was the German positions near the tower to the Canadian positions on the south side of the Great Market.
So this is it. This is where the scene of the final battle in Groningen took place.
Yes, and the Germans were over there.
Now, the famous newsreel that we see, it was shot from here, wasn't it?
Yeah, shot from here. Yeah, and you see the Canadians walking around the Great Market, and you see all the destroyed buildings from the east side and the north side. It was terrible. That changed the Great Market forever. We have a lot of old buildings over there, and they're completely destroyed.
The newsreel footage takes you back, especially when you're standing almost in the exact spot that the cameramen did in 1945.
Well, with all the fighting that went on here in the Groningen area, have you had any luck finding artifacts?
Yeah, a lot of artifacts stay behind here at the battlefield of Groningen. And I have an exhibit at the museum.
An exhibit?
Of artifacts, yeah.
Well, that sounds like our next stop.
Now, one of our objectives is to truly find special artifacts that will represent the last few weeks of the war. We're hoping we could find something special within Joel's exhibit.
These are the first artifacts I've built here for the exhibition. German swastika flag captured during the Battle of Groningen.
Are these all your artifacts that
Yeah.
you've collected?
Yes, all my artifacts.
It was quite obvious that not only did he have a passion for history, but a great attention to detail.
Each display that he created gives you an idea of what it would have been like to be a Canadian or a German soldier in Holland in 1945.
So do you have anything maybe of a personal nature, something with maybe a name or a number or some sort of marking that we can use to help identify it?
Yeah, we have some personal artifacts who stay behind here in Groningen after the battle. But we must go upstairs, you can see it there. We have here 3 helmets, and all 3 helmets were found in Groningen. Ooh. We have one helmet with a name.
Joel opened the case and then pulled out a helmet.
This was the helmet.
Oh, wow. Wow, look at this. There's a whole bunch of names on here.
After he handed me the helmet, I took a look at it, and what really jumped off immediately was the name.
Red Milner. Now, is that the person who owned the helmet?
The person who owned the helmet. The helmet was found after the Battle of Groningen.
It was an unusual helmet with more writing than we're used to. And as Dave moved the helmet around, you could also see Royal Regiment of Canada.
What do you know about Milner?
Because we know the KIA list from Groningen. Clarence was his first name.
Clarence.
He's been killed in the southwest part of Groningen. And he was with the Royal Regiment of Canada. And they crossed the channel over there in the southwest.
And then he surprised Wayne and I yet again.
We have a little photo about him.
Really?
The photo, you see them laying on a stretcher, and there the picture was taken about Milner.
He told us there was a photograph of Milner taken moments after he was killed in the battle.
So now you have a name, Clarence Milner,
Yeah.
the regiment, but you haven't been able to find a family.
No, we have no information about it. Only the story, he'd been killed here in the picture, and that's the only thing we have about Milner.
You can imagine what a family would think being reunited with this 70 years later.
Incredible artifact. Next thing, we need to see that photograph.
So you're taking us to the exact location where the photo was taken?
Yes. It's the exact location, it's the same building.
So we're just going up here?
Yeah. Number 100.
104, 102.
This is number 100.
Right here.
Yeah.
When we arrived on the scene, he opened up a book which contained the photo, and I was absolutely amazed at what I saw.
My God, look at this. The buildings are exactly the same.
It's the same building, yeah. And you can see here
Yeah?
the body of Clarence Milner, and he lays over here.
So the Royal Regiment were advancing up this street, and they're taking fire as they come up this way.
Yes, a lot of German snipers in the buildings. The helmet was over here. You can see it on the picture. You can see also the Canadian soldiers inside. This little space.
Yeah, you
Maybe
can.
they hide, but
Well, you wonder if he wasn't hit here, lost his helmet,
Yes.
and then maybe they dragged him over
drag
for
them over
safety.
here, yeah.
So how do you know that the body that we're looking at right now is that of Milner's?
The author of this book researched the picture, but also the helmet. Well, a lot of veterans came over from Canada after the war to remember the Battle of Groningen. So he talked with a lot of veterans also from the Royal Regiment of Canada.
And when did he do this?
In the 1980s. He passed away a couple of years ago, so we can never ask him. That's very sad.
Joel believes the local historian who did his research. He supposedly interviewed some of the Royal Regiment who are seen in the photograph, and he truly believes that that is Milner's body.
Well, it's a very interesting collection of evidence you have, the photograph and the stories so far, but we're really going to have to investigate this deeper.
The Milner helmet is an incredible find for us. We are now eager to begin the analysis and research of the photograph.
You know, Dave, the more I look at this photo, the more I question it.
Oh, I know. And it is a remarkable photograph. We've never had anything that connects us to an artifact like this.
But is that a body?
It's hard to tell because the resolution on this photo is not very good.
I know. It's something white. Now, they say it's a man on a stretcher, but could that be flowers in a flower bed? Or did, say, a civilian come out and put a white sheet?
You know, I've been working on that, and look what I found. The Army was using light-colored khaki sheets to wrap up the dead for burial. This was actually shot in Groningen during the battle. That is a Canadian soldier being taken for burial, wrapped in the same light-colored canvas wrap.
It's identical. So this proves that this is a body in the photo. But is it Milner's?
That's the next question.
As we continue our investigation into the Milner helmet, we are still on the hunt for more artifacts that help tell the story of the liberation of Holland. Our research team has given us a new lead, this time 50 kilometers south of Groningen in the town of Emmen.
Hello.
Hi.
Welcome.
Hi, I'm David O'Keefe.
Erik Spiegelaar.
Hi.
Welcome to my museum.
Wow.
Can I invite you?
Please. What we're doing is we're working on the last few weeks of the war. So we're looking for any artifacts from that period.
I can show you a lot of them.
Great.
As soon as we walked in, I really didn't think this was going to be fruitful, simply because we walked into, I guess, what was his office part of his museum. But then the farther we went in, suddenly it all opened up. And now you could see weapons, you could see uniforms pulled off the fields of battle all over Holland, not just in this area.
It's coming from everywhere.
Well, the interesting thing is, I mean, what we want is any type of personal item, anything maybe with a name, a number, a mystery attached that we can help you solve.
Yes.
Do you have anything?
Yes. How many do you want?
Really?
And as soon as I asked that, the floodgates opened.
This helmet.
Look at that.
What number? Canadian number?
Wow. Sutherland.
Sutherland.
So it's B92348, and it looks like, is that a lance corporal or a lieutenant? And it says Sutherland, R. So R Sutherland. Okay, this is the right one.
Yeah.
Not far, he showed us a second helmet.
I have another one.
Really?
Royal Montreal Regiment.
That's my hometown.
Captain H.G. Lodgy.
The second helmet I found really special because as a Montreal boy, I could appreciate the markings of the Royal Montreal Regiment.
Wow, now this is interesting. Now the RMR, as they're known, Royal Montreal Regiment, were actually attached to 1st Canadian Army and worked as their security force throughout the Second World War. Now this is extremely rare.
And not much further away, he surprised us again with a third helmet.
Also this one.
Another helmet.
Another helmet.
This was amazing, and I started to wonder why so many helmets. And the only conclusion that we could draw at the moment was that at the end of the war, when the men were going home, they left these intentionally as souvenirs for Dutch families.
It is a very strange one with the names on it. He started with the F.
The first marking we saw was FWA.
And over there, where is the name?
Oh, F.W. Armstrong. And what is it?
Camerons of Canada.
And then Eric surprised us. He had a small card with a bit of information that he must have forgot about when he first showed us the Armstrong helmet.
Wait a second. It says Armstrong was an honorary captain.
Honorary captain, what does that mean?
He might have been a doctor. He might have been...
Priest?
Yeah, he could have been a padre, because they weren't necessarily part of the mainstream military. They were brought in given the honorary ranks of captain so they could perform their duties. Now, that's interesting.
So Armstrong might not have been a fighting soldier?
No, he could have been a medic, could have been a medical officer.
Now, this was incredible evidence for us. And then when I was taking pictures of the helmet,
And go to the next one.
just under Camerons of Canada, I noticed something else. Something that Eric didn't point out earlier.
What's it say right there?
I don't know. Very hard to see.
It's F.W. Armstrong, Camerons of Canada, right?
Yeah, honorary captain, padre.
No
It says
way.
padre.
No, right there.
P.A., probably the D's missing, R.E., padre. That makes sense without being an honorary captain. You either had the regimental medical officer or the padre, and that's the only two.
So Armstrong
Was a padre. Now that's unique.
After uncovering so many great stories with regards to the helmets, we have another objective here in the Groningen area. This time, to dig for artifacts. But finding places to dig in northern Holland is a little more difficult than some of the battlefields we've investigated. Most of the farmers have reclaimed the land, but Joel says he's arranged a great spot for us to dig.
So we're digging where today?
A German prisoner of war camp called Zuidlaar.
Oh, that was one of the biggest ones in this area, wasn't it?
Yeah. After the Battle of Groningen, 5,000 Germans were taken prisoner. And most of these Germans moved to the camp at Zuidlaren.
So what do we expect to find?
Yeah, all kinds of personal things, maybe medals, masting, all the things the Germans had when they moved in the camp.
Well, we've never searched on a POW camp.
Joel explains that the camp, run by the Canadian Army, was located 15 kilometers south of Groningen, near the town of Zuidlaren. This seems like a unique opportunity until we arrive and see the enormity of the farmer's field. But then luckily, we have help.
Yeah. Hi.
Joel introduces us to Tees, a local digger who knows the area well, and Michael, who's a specialist in ground-penetrating radar.
Fine.
So Tees, where was the POW camp?
The biggest part of it was where the houses and the industrial buildings are right now, and a smaller part of it was in the field just over here.
Okay.
Have you ever searched this area before?
Nope, never.
No. This is good.
And we have permission from the landowner to search.
Even though Tees and Joel seem confident, there's no way of really knowing whether a POW camp existed here or not. There are no buildings or structures remaining, which makes this a real challenge. But Joel does have one excellent piece of evidence that sheds more light on the story. A photo taken in 1945, right after the war.
So this is the area.
This is the area.
Yeah, look at that. Look at all the tents. So where are we now on this photo?
I think around this area.
Right around here, right? So we're on the fringes of the camp.
Yes.
So this looks like the target area.
Yes.
It really is an incredible photograph. It shows hundreds of tents spread across the field. From what Tees and Joel say, and from the evidence on the photo, our target area is a narrow patch of land right on the edge of this field.
So we pushed ourselves as close to the fence line as possible and then carved out about a 30 by 100 meter swatch. Now this was where we were going to start.
Tees uses a metal detector. It will find objects 5 to 30 centimeters below the surface. Michael's ground-penetrating radar will pick up deeper items, up to 2 meters. The GPR sends a signal down that reflects off anything buried below. Right away, Tees gets a large number of hits.
That's a lot, Dave. Quite a few.
Besides looking for evidence to prove this was a POW camp, we are also searching for something else.
What the locals suspect is that somewhere in this POW camp, when the Germans eventually left, they actually dug pits and threw a lot of the unnecessary equipment into those pits and buried them.
These dumping pits are really untold stories of liberation, a treasure trove of artifacts discarded at the end of the war. We're hoping to find one. But first, Tees digs up key evidence.
Here, take a look at this.
What is it?
I think it's from a tent.
Really? Oh, from an islet.
Yeah.
This is fantastic because from the photo that we have seen, you can see the Germans were living in tents. So this is the first thing that absolutely confirms that we are digging in the right place. This is the islet from a tent.
This is the evidence we've been searching for. We know we're definitely on the site of the POW camp.
Pretty soon we got more hits. There it is. Oh, wow, look at that. That's a belt buckle. Mm-hmm. Not a belt buckle, but like looks like it came off of webbing, doesn't it?
Shoes or I don't know.
It's pretty small, so it looks like it may come from a strap. Too small to be off of a belt, but definitely World War II. Seems to be.
We then dig up a small button that would have come off a shirt. Whether it was German or Allied, we can't tell.
Well, definitely, we have something that came off of a uniform or some sort of clothing.
Then we find something that would have been used by all men at the camp.
Looks like some kind of toothpaste tube.
Really?
Yeah.
But is that actually toothpaste that was held in that?
Something like it. The Germans really loved stuff for their faces and their feet.
I mean, this is really amazing. I mean, this is kind of the stuff we expected to see, right? The stuff that of everyday life.
I find this fascinating because this may be German, but it could also be part of the Canadian rations given to the German soldiers. And the last thing we found was maybe the most special.
Is that a button?
No, it's a coin. It's a Dutch one.
From what year? Looks like it's 1 cent.
Yeah, in Dutch we call it a leeuwencent, but in English you can call it a lion cent. Yeah, it's from 1873.
1873?
Yep.
This small coin seems at first just an artifact from a half-century before the war, until...
How long were these in circulation for?
Until the Second World War.
Until the Second World War. So there's also a possibility that not only do we have something that was minted in 1873, but it was in service until the end of the Second World War. More likely, given the fact that we have the camp, you wonder if some of the Germans here for 4 years may have had this with them. Wow, that's fantastic.
This coin most likely was dropped by a German prisoner in this field over 70 years ago. We have dug up great artifacts from the POW camp, but we unfortunately failed to find a dumping pit.
Luckily, we have a second location that Joel has secured. A few kilometers away is a small field on private land. During World War II, this was part of a German airfield, and then was used as a Canadian camp late in the war.
Wow, it looks like you already have the GPR working.
Yeah, indeed.
How's it going so far?
Amazing data, many objects.
So on that note, Michael marks out some target areas, and we begin to dig.
I mean, look at the stuff we're finding so far.
We are searching a small field south of Groningen, looking for a pit where Allies dumped war materials after liberation. We think we may have found one.
Oh, look at this.
It's like a bicycle pedal.
Bicycle pedal.
That's precious.
Well, you know the German army were using bicycles.
Looks like a clip of ammunition.
Look at that, Dave. What is that?
Tease finds a clip from a Dutch rifle.
Then more and more artifacts came out of this hole.
I believe it came from a razor.
Razor?
Yeah.
Okay, so we definitely hit some sort of dump right here.
Great.
Seems to be not a cartridge.
This actually looks Belgian. This was produced by the British and then sold to the Belgian army and then later on captured by the Germans.
And then we dig up something truly different.
That's weird.
Look at that. It's got to be the longest bullet I've ever seen.
You're saying that somebody took 2 bullets and put them on top of each other?
That's what it looks like. The only thing I can think of is all that trench art we used to see in World War I with the shells. I wonder if somebody might have been doing the same thing here.
That is precision, though. It was just amazing to see the variety and the different artifacts that we were pulling out of the ground.
Nice small bottle.
What the heck is that?
Sterilizer.
Let's see. Look at this.
Sterilizer?
E-R-L-I-Z-E-R. Is that German or Dutch?
Canadian, I guess.
You think it's Canadian?
Well, that is so neat. To find this bottle intact after 70 years. As Tease continued deeper, he found maybe the best item of all.
Okay.
Oh, this looks very promising.
What the heck is that?
It's from a German visor cap.
No way. Look at it.
The uglies.
Yeah. Holy God.
This is a good find.
That's a great find.
This would have come from the cap of an officer stationed at the German airfield. We went on to find more and more items. To think that these dumping pits are spread all over this area of Holland. Tease will be digging for years to come.
After a great dig, our research team has found a lead to a museum just outside downtown Groningen. We don't quite know what to expect until we arrive.
Yeah, it should be coming up right here. Oh my. Look at this place.
In front of us was this massive museum with a Canadian flag and remnants of military vehicles and an aircraft outside.
Hello there.
Hello.
Wayne Abbott.
Yeah, Heiko Waters.
Hi, Dave O'Keefe. We weren't expecting this.
My museum, you see. Foundation, Canadian Allied Forces.
Fantastic.
1945.
I'm just gonna grab the camera.
This looks promising. Ooh, you can smell the diesel.
I invite you in my museum.
Thank you. Look at this place. These are all yours?
Yes, that's my collection that I have for over 35 years now.
As soon as we walked in, I couldn't believe what I had seen. This place was massive inside, and there were vehicles of all types. Some I had never seen before.
I'm stunned. All this stuff was found in the area,
Mostly
roughly.
the stuff of what we have here was found here in Groningen.
German staff car, American tanks from the end of the war, bicycles, scout cars I can see, Dodge trucks.
What really caught my eye was this tiny staff car.
Still with the original seats and everything inside. The markings here, was that from the Dutch SS?
Yeah, that could be for the Dutch SS, but this is original SS.
This was the German secret state police, the Gestapo. You didn't want that showing up.
Then he took me around the corner and showed me a British motorcycle.
Yeah, that's a Metzlers.
These are really rare, aren't they?
There were built a lot of them in the Second World War, but at this moment they are very rare to get in this stage.
And this was British built, right?
Yeah, this is British built, but also Canadian used.
We saw vehicle after vehicle after vehicle. These are in mint condition.
It's extraordinary that these vehicles were all found in various states of disrepair, and Heiko and his team have brought them back to their original condition.
Further down the aisle was an armored car. This one was painted to look like the Polish Armored Division, which of course fought with the Canadians up in this area near the end of the war.
Yeah, there's no leg room in here. I mean, this would be that'd be too tight. I'd have a chance getting up in the turret, though.
Yeah, you can climb up.
Well, it should be good.
These armored cars were used in the Groningen area to gather crucial reconnaissance information for the Allied armies.
So basically, the idea was to get in, stir up whatever they could, see where the German positions were, radio them back, get back with the information. After all these years...
Turns like new.
Does it ever?
This was one really well-restored machine. It took a while to get through the rest of the museum. But then Heiko surprised us.
Well, I have one vehicle left to show you.
Really?
And we can go through it, and it's standing there.
Is that what I think it is?
Well, tell me.
Bren gun carrier.
Yeah, you're right. It's a Canadian-built Bren gun carrier.
These are great. I mean, these are such iconic vehicles. They were the equivalent of what the Humvee is today, or the Jeep was for the Americans during the Second World War. These were the ultimate utility vehicle.
If you'd like to drive with me, we can drive.
Seriously?
Yeah.
We get to drive this?
Yes, we can drive this.
All right, let's do it.
When those doors opened and that Bren carrier took off, it was thrilling. It just takes you back 70 years. You see these machines and those old black and white newsreels.
You know, it's amazing to think that a lot of the Canadian soldiers went right through North and West Europe in vehicles like this.
It drove perfectly, at least for the first little while. We overheated the vehicle.
The Bren gun carrier finally conked out. It just couldn't take the kind of pace that we were putting it through. So now it was a question of trying to get it restarted.
It's too hot.
When Heiko realized this wasn't going to happen, we called in some reinforcements.
Bring it back.
We were able to tow it the 50 meters back to the warehouse. But despite the inauspicious ending, God, was that fun.
So we did it? Well, thanks so much. I mean, that was just such an amazing experience, being in this vehicle 70 years after the war.
For me, too. Every time again, when I started the engine, I think, oh, okay, what was it for 70 years ago for those guys?
Does take you back, doesn't it?
After an intense search on the items we discovered at Eric's museum, we found one family, the family of F.W. Armstrong. We have brought over to Holland Frank Armstrong's son, Doug, and his wife, Mary.
What's unique about this story is this is the first artifact that Wayne and I have ever dealt with that revolves around a chaplain.
We're just wondering what you know of your father's war experiences. He mentioned the fact that it was part of his task to identify some of the dying and also the dead on the Canadian side, and that was a difficult task for him.
It's heart-wrenching to hear what chaplains like Frank Armstrong had to experience on the front lines. We think the most appropriate place to take Doug and Mary is 100 kilometers south of Groningen to the Holton Canadian War Cemetery.
It was here that many of the men that Frank Armstrong tended to during the last couple of weeks of the war now lie forever.
These are all soldiers that were killed in the Battle of Groningen.
Yeah. 15th of April.
And this soldier here, Private Coffin, was from your father's unit. And he was killed on the 16th of April, just in the final moments of the Battle of Groningen. And you can imagine what your father faced on a daily basis.
So how did the war change your father when he came home? It was moments such as you described that changed him from being a volunteer to fight for his country to one who would only consider a pacifist's role.
As we walked through the cemetery, Doug clung to the briefcase he brought all the way from Canada.
He told us that it belonged to his father, but we had no idea what was inside.
The first thing he pulled out were photographs, and this was the first time that Wayne and I had seen the face of Frank Armstrong.
So that's what he looks like.
What happened next was an incredible surprise.
This is my father's field communion set, which he took with him when he was giving the last rites to soldiers in the field. And this was the goblet for the wine, and this is the plate for the bread, or the host as it's called. And this particular host comes to us directly from 1945.
Really?
So
Right
that
there.
is over 60, 70 years old.
This is what he had on the battlefield.
Indeed.
That's right.
Indeed.
The fact that Doug's father had it with him here in Holland in 1945 made this extra special. Then it was time to take him to Eric's museum.
When we arrived at Eric's museum, there was a bit of a twist in the process.
Now, Doug and Mary had no clue at what artifact we were about to show them. And Eric didn't know what family we were bringing to his museum.
Hello.
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 This is Eric Zwigler. He is the owner of the museum here. And this is Mary and Doug Armstrong.
Oh, yeah.
Me too.
I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled. You can come with me. I will show you some of the museum.
Thank you.
All right.
It's based on the different armies of the war. The largest part of my collections. It's the tribute to the liberators.
You know, Eric has something very special that belonged to your father.
Okay. It's the helmet.
And before we knew it, he had blurted out what it was they were there to see.
So I think, which helmet is it?
This has really got you, hasn't it?
It's really got me.
This is fantastic.
No, Eric is so overwhelmed.
Yes, I am.
Why don't you just show them?
So, this is the helmet. And he wrote his name.
Oh, my. That's distinctly his writing, no question about it. Clearly, it belonged to him. That's absolutely phenomenal. For those who discovered it and those who preserved it, I am very grateful. This is something he wore to protect his life while he was here. That's very special.
Then Doug opened up his father's case.
This particular goblet would have wine.
Eric was taken back by what he was seeing here.
The bread. And this bread, it dates back to 1945. This actual bread.
That's F.W. Armstrong. We've had his helmet all these years.
It's great. It's fantastic.
So here you go. The helmet next to the
Helmet
photo.
and then a helmet next to the photo. Isn't it great?
It's stunning.
Oh,
Huh?
Yes.
It's very great.
Then something happened that totally shocked Dave and I.
I just want to say that my father admired the Dutch people very much. And I think he would be honored if this remained here in Holland. And I would like to appoint you custodian of this communion set.
Thank you. I'm speechless, sorry.
We're honored to have this in your collection.
It will be given a special place
Yes.
with the helmet.
to it.
Now, for the first time in over 70 years, the helmet that Frank Armstrong wore and the communion set that he had on the battlefields of Holland were finally together once again. On April 16, 1945, the city of Groningen celebrates liberation. Citizens and soldiers gather in the streets. Unfortunately, Clarence Red Milner is not one of them. He's killed 2 days before, but his helmet has remained behind. Now his family has arrived in Holland, including his kid brother Charlie, who was only 10 in 1945, and Charlie's son, Michael.
Hi, Charlie.
We are thrilled to have somebody from the Milner family join us here.
And I'm quite thrilled to be here.
Charlie has no idea we have found his brother's helmet. Being so young at the time, we want to know what memories Charlie has of Clarence.
How did his death affect you?
Very much. He was my big brother, and we spent a lot of time together.
Do you think of him?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we have a picture of him above my breakfast and dinner table. You look at pretty well every day.
We then take Charlie and his son Michael inside the museum. For Joel, he's been waiting a long time to meet someone from the Milner family.
Well, we'd like to introduce you to Joel Stopels. He's a local historian. Charlie Milner.
Hello.
And his son Mike. He is the brother of Clarence Milner.
Oh, it's a great pleasure to meet you here in Groningen.
Then Joel takes Charlie and Michael on a tour of his exhibit.
It was quite obvious that Joel was proud to show the work that he had done with his exhibit, and justifiably so. He was able to show them what life was like in Groningen for the Canadian soldier.
You see the uniform and also the Lee Enfield. It was a standard rifle used at the Canadian troops here in Groningen. Maybe your brother had the same weapon.
Now it's time to show them why they came to Holland. For Joel, this is the moment he had waited for years. To finally present the helmet to a Milner relative.
This belonged to your brother.
Wow. Yeah.
There it is, yeah. Isn't that something?
That's quite a thing, yeah.
To see Charlie hold Clarence's helmet after 70 years is very touching. But there's still one mystery we hope he can solve.
Is that his nickname, or why would they call him Red Milner?
Because he had red hair, mainly, and then all the family had red hair. They all used to call him Red, school days and stuff.
What's it like to have this in your hands now all these years later?
It kind of gets you, eh, to think that it's been on him.
What's it like for you?
It's emotional. Say, I never got to meet the man.
Yeah.
Always very proud of him for what he did. We all have a better life because of brave soldiers like Clarence. Where was it found?
And that's the next location where we're going to.
Oh, wow.
It's time to take them to the place where Clarence was killed.
Thank you.
The reason we've brought you to this particular location is because this was the main route of advance for your brother when his regiment came into Groningen.
And we have a picture. You can see this picture was taken for this house, maybe by a civilian, and here lies Clarence Milner.
And although the evidence isn't 100% conclusive, we were able to get into the war diary, and it showed that indeed, when they came down this way and fighting on this road, they came under sniper fire. It also lists that 5 of the Royal Regiment soldiers were killed just along here. Is one of the 5 who lost his life on the street right here.
So right here behind you is the exact spot where he died.
Where he got hit, yeah.
Right here.
Right here.
Just makes it real. I mean, before it was, I knew my Uncle Clarence died in World War II. As a child on Remembrance Day, he was the one of my thoughts.
Then it was time to take the final journey to the Holton Cemetery where Clarence is buried.
Charles has never been to Holland, so this will be his first time visiting his brother's grave.
All these years, finally made it here.
That number, I could always remember that number. B117461. It stayed with me for years. Yeah.
His final resting place. You can almost feel him here.
But then they pulled out a photo album. Dave and I, through all of our research, never knew what Clarence Milner looked like.
So that's the wavy red hair.
Yeah.
Yeah, Charlie with his best buddy.
That was just before he got in.
So is this the last photo that was taken of you and your brother?
I would have to say, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Then Michael shows us the photo of Clarence
This is the picture he looks at every day.
that hangs in Charlie's house.
Yeah.
He died way too young.
Oh, yes.
Then there was a really poignant moment when both Charles and Michael decided that they were going to plant 3 Canadian flags at the grave. One would stay here. The 2 others would be taken back to Canada for the family.
How does it feel, Dad?
Yeah, it feels good to be here after all these years. Every time you look at something with his picture, because he was always smiling anyway. Always smiled, yeah.
The story of Clarence Red Milner represents the ultimate sacrifice that Canadian soldiers made near the end of the war to liberate a country that 70 years later has never forgotten.